This year was all about comic culture, and that's what's really fucking awesome, is the fact that, yes, Marvel has allowed comic book movies to soar and continue to get better, but this year we had even more films, from Guardians of the Galaxy 2, to Logan, to Justice League, to Wonder Woman. We had all of these great movies, and all of it stemming from the culture that is comic books. And God, 2017 was a year in comic books. First of all, we have to talk about the fact that Tom King probably has had one of the best years that he's ever had. From his Batman, from his Mr. Miracle, to his stories like The Button, Rooftop, Super Friends, all of it has been great. And now it's coalescing all into Doomsday Clock, which is turning out to be really fucking good. On top of that, DC metal, God, the idea of heavy metal combined with the Batman mythos, creating a bunch of crazy Batmen, is insane in itself. DC Rebirth continued with some amazing stories, and Superman leading the charge of powerful storytelling. Also, this was Jack Kirby's centennial year, and Kirby is by far one of the greatest creative minds in superhero comics. So even the fact that Mr. Miracle is out, and it is one of the finest pieces of comics I've ever had the pleasure of reading, now it just goes full circle with building on something that's so beautiful. This was honestly a great year in comic books for me personally, because this is also the year where I really jumped into DC Rebirth's event. I read the entirety of Superman's story, which is some of the best storytelling I've ever had the pleasure of reading. Also, talking about Tom King, I went back and I read all of Grayson, and now I've been able to read through his trilogy of the whole I Am Gotham, I Am Suicide, I Am Bane story, which was just keeping me on the edge of my seat the entire time. I read classics like Batman Eternal and Batman and Robin Eternal. Right now, maybe not looked at as the best necessarily, but I feel they will be instant classics in the future. While DC Comics soared, this was the year where almost everything went completely wrong with Marvel Comics. And that's unfortunate because they had a great MCU year with all of their great movies. But for everything from Secret Empire to Nazi Captain America, they really fucked up. But it was more news that went into the whole machine that is comic book culture. Boom Studios continued to deliver their fantastic MMPR stories, specifically the focus on Lord Draken, one of the coolest new additions to the MMPR mythos. Also, we got Go-Go Power Rangers, which is more of a focus on the teenage life of Power Rangers, and that's been really fun. And then we've also have the Power Rangers teaming up with the Justice League to take on bad guys, which was a really fun crossover. And this wasn't just a good year for DC. I mean, there were other fantastic comics going about. We had the surprisingly attentive and witty Flintstones title. We had the insightful The Best We Could Do. The stylized Aliens Dead Orbit, which was really sick, penned to life by James Stokoe. The highly praised My Favorite Thing is Monsters. And then also the disturbingly funny collection of stories by Joanne Cornelas, Zonzo. So there were a lot of great stories to be read. This was also a good year in Japanese animation. I mean, not necessarily that these came out this year, but I was introduced to the fantastic My Hero Academia, which is by far one of the greatest TV shows and comic books I've ever had the pleasure of reading. This year, Attack on Titan got fucking crazy, and it only continues to get better and better. So overall, Japan also brought to us a lot of great reading material. All in all, this was a great year in comic books, because there were so many events that I truly loved. Sometimes trying to immerse yourself in a good story is really hard to come by, and luckily in this year I was able to reinvigorate myself by reading such amazing stories. I know I use these words a lot, and they might lose meaning after a while, but these stories will never lose their meaning because I learned a lot. And overall, I'm hoping 2018 will be just as satisfying.